Hello, welcome back to Salty Sunshine. I'm your host, Lisa. I'm ready to talk all the shiz for pop culture, hot topics, reality TV, true crime, all the things. How's everybody doing? Bethany's Supermodel Cafe has been, I don't know, I would call it a success. It lines out the door. I know somebody posted that it was shut down, but I think it was a temporary thing, then they fixed it right away, or she wasn't violating whatever they thought it was. But people are saying that it's really good, although the cold coffees are 9.50. That's crazy, but they're pretty tall and in a cute glass or plastic cup. Her bagels, apparently you need to toast them, and nobody knew that, so they were complaining about the flavor. She's like, you got to be stupid if you didn't toast them. Well, did you tell people they had to toast them, the ones you bought in a bag, like, to take home? I don't think they told that to anybody, but I think all in all it's been a success, and we'll see where it goes. I think it's still open. It's in New Jersey. I don't know if she's gonna continue doing it around. She probably will, but it looks fun though. It looks cute. The colors, the behind the scenes. I don't know why everybody's so mad about it. It's just, what is a big deal? If you hate it, don't go. And if you want to, go. And Instagram updated their logo for the first time in a long time. Um, it does look better, you gotta admit. It's a little more modern looking. It's not, everyone's like complaining about that too. Everybody's complaining about everything. I don't know what the problem is, but I think it looks better. I think it looks more modern. And then sadly, Hayden Panettiere passed away last week, and it was sudden. She was 36. Nobody saw this coming as far as the public. And she flew from LA to North Carolina. She was staying in, I think, a little bed and breakfast or a hotel, and her on and off boyfriend, I think he lives there in North Carolina, like 6 minutes away, in a house that is owned by, I think, his parents, but his brother and him live there. So I'm assuming she didn't stay there because she was doing drugs. I don't know. The investigation is going on. Nobody knows what happened. Obviously, she had addiction issues and depression issues. So it's really sad. It was shocking. I woke up, I think it was a Sunday or a Monday. And when I looked at the phone, I was like, oh my gosh, this can't be real. So it is sad. Her mom used to be her manager. She kind of fired her mom and said, I just want you to be my mom, not my manager. And I think that fractured the relationship, and they didn't really have one after that, which is wild. Her younger brother passed away from an enlarged heart in 23, and she never got over that. I just think there are people that are just inherently depressed. Maybe she's one of those people, because I mean, it just doesn't make sense how sometimes people tell me their story, or for whatever reason they don't, let's say they cut off their parents, or they cut off their dad, they cut off their mom, and you're talking, and the reasons that they tell you why they did this are so, for instance, for someone like me, that I've seen really crazy shit, and if they tell you something silly, like my mom won't stop coming over without calling first, or I don't know, it's just something that's very not serious to me. Maybe it's annoying, maybe the boundaries, but it's not something I can imagine someone cutting their parents off for. And then you're just like, wow, you cut your parents off for so much less than what I would cut my parents off for. So going back to Hayden, I think people are born with certain thresholds, and for instance, depression. And I think even though she did go, people go through worse, is my point, and they end up being able to roll with the punches. And for whatever reason, she couldn't. And a lot of child actors, I feel, go through that. But then you have the child actors that are okay. So it's interesting to see how some people can roll with the punches and be okay. And when I say okay, I mean kind of at peace. They just take things for what they are, they accept things how they come, keep moving. It feels like someone like Hayden is just a depressed person in general and they can't kick it. And it's an interesting topic, but it is sad. And obviously her picker is horrible. I think she dated Stephen Coletti from Laguna Beach. She dated a few cuties, but that's when she was super young. And those obviously were short lived. But she dated a few losers, including her baby daddy. And when I say, I mean, I don't know if he's a loser, but just not a good partner, bad qualities in a partner. And that's sad because I feel if you don't have a more or less peaceful growing up and then a good relationship with your parents, that usually, not all the time, because again, there's people that find someone that's great and fits them well and they're happy, but it does a lot of the times translate into you having a bad picker. And then you pick terrible partners, and picking a terrible partner in life can ruin your life. And it can ruin big chunks of your life. You can always, it's never too late to get a hold on a situation and kind of do the work and change things around a little. But for the most part, it can ruin chunks of your life, especially if you have a baby with that person and then now you're dealing with them on another level and it's just like so chaotic and toxic. And that's why I feel bad. And that's why I think one thing is your childhood, but when it ruins the rest of your life in another way when it makes you pick really bad partners. So it's sad. Everyone's thinking the on and off again boyfriend had something to do with it. He went to jail in the past for domestic incidences with her. I think it's in her book. I think he was really honest about it and takes ownership from what he said, but he does look a little odd. And I don't know. I think the 911 call said they thought she was in cardiac arrest. So maybe her heart just failed from all the pills and all the stuff. And that can happen, especially with pills. Your heart can just stop. One day it just doesn't work. And that happens all the time. So even though it's not an intended suicide, when you're living your life like that, you're taking a risk that your heart can stop. But more information will come out, I'm sure. Jordan Woods got married to, I forgot his name, but the guy that he was on the Knicks and he just won that big title. And, this is a terrible thing to say, but I'm like, well, look who's laughing last. No, I'm just kidding. Her and remember, Jordan Woods she used to be Kylie Jenner's best friend. They lived together and all that. And then when Khloe was with Tristan went to a party and he made out with Jordan, and that threw a wrench in everything. That turned into the biggest story everywhere. And, Jordan was young. Tristan's the idiot. And Tristan, that was what, his fifth. And then he went on to do it a million other times. And Khloe kind of wrote her off and, hated her guts, but she wasn't being rational. And then Kylie had to tell her sisters, listen, she did a bad thing, but she's still human and she made a mistake, and let's not allow the world to come down on her like this. So it's interesting to see now that she's back friends with her. I don't know if they're ever be as close, or are they as close, but she was at the wedding. So was Hailey and Justin Bieber. So I'm just saying, I think it's interesting. Life again. Jordan was in that circle of the Kardashians, whatever, and Jenners. Because of the rift that happened, because of the kiss with Tristan, it pushed her out of that world. And because of that, she found her husband. That's what I think. That's how I see it. I think thank God that happened, because I think she would have stayed in that little bubble. I'm just like, what's that other girl's name? Stassi baby. I think, I mean, I don't know who she's with. It seems to me she's single or dating, like on and off stuff. But I do think when you stay too much in a circle like that, it hinders you from venturing out and meeting new people and meeting a new potential partner. And I think this was a blessing in disguise for Jordan, because it kicked her out of that and she grew up and found her man. So congrats to them. Everybody's talking about Brooks Nader. She was on vacation in Italy on a boat and topless with her dad right in front of her. They took these photos, and I believe she said, "Well, I didn't know they were taking photos." Well, the photos is not the problem, honey. The problem is you're in front of your dad with your tits jiggling all over in front of his face. I don't know how that's not weird for her mom, because I don't care how normal your dad is or how non-pedophile your dad is. It's still your dad. It's still male, and it's weird. And I wouldn't even do that in front of my mom, let alone my dad. It's just a male woman dynamic, and it's bizarre. I don't know. It's like, would you open your legs and show him your vagina? What's the difference? You know, it's the same. It's a private part. I don't know. I mean, I think it's different if she pass out or something and her tits pop out. Of course, her dad's not going to give a shit. But to hang out on a boat while you're just drinking and chilling, it's she was the only one too. I think one of her sisters were there. Or her sister was doing that. I don't know. I think it's weird. Everyone is saying, well, when in Rome, no. I don't even think Italians do that. But what do I know? Brooks is a character. I know her new show's coming. Her second season of Love Thy Nader is coming. It's only been 5 years since the first season dropped. Um, she's a little kooky, and remember, she overdoses on GLP-1s, so she can't possibly maybe that's why she can't possibly understand what's happening. She's always, kind of passing out from malnutrition. But also Alex Earl Meets World or something. I don't like that name for the reality show that's coming out, but it's coming out soon. I think in September. And apparently she does talk about the whole Alex Cooper, Alex Earl drama. I'm curious to see if she actually says why. It better not be that she skirts around it, because that would have really pissed me off. We waited all this time for a stupid ass answer, and you better say it. Everyone wants to know. And there was a clip that she said, well, everyone's saying that it's probably nothing. And she's like, no, there's a reason. So it almost makes it look like she's gonna say the reason, and she better say the reason. Everyone's accusing Alex Earl of getting butt injections. Her butt does look full, but I don't know. I'd have to look at before photos, how full it was before, how full it was now. Why anybody would inject something in their butt is beyond me, but I'm not sure. Maybe she's just been working out a lot. You can make your butt look bigger when you work out. Secret Lies of Mormon Wives. I will not be watching. Apparently the season's coming. I don't care. I'm so over it. I like Macy. I like Michaela. If they had their own show with different people, I would watch. I can't with Jesse. I can't with Taylor Frankie Paul. I can't with, I don't know who else was on there. Oh, I like Miranda. Oh my God, her country song. Have you guys heard her country? They had a video of her singing live on stage in some field. It was pretty bad. I mean, let's be real. Maybe she just needs some more practice and vocal coaching. Her voice is not terrible. I think it has potential, but the actual performance was a little not great, but it wasn't terrible. It wasn't stop, don't ever do that again. It was just, I think she was unprepared. But yeah, I like her too. So her, Michaela, Macy, I wish they were going to do their own show. But Jen too, I'm over. I just don't care, if that makes sense. I'm just not invested. I don't care. The Taylor Frankie Paul thing, I really don't care. Dakota came out and debuted his new girlfriend, which is the girl that was friends with Miranda, that they were dating already on the show once or twice, and then apparently he's still with her. And then all the drama back and forth, I don't care. Jesse James or Jesse Draper or whatever her name is, I haven't liked her. She just reminds me so much of just a car salesman. She has an answer for everything. She's very rehearsed. She's very fake. And she even said that they would redo scenes so that it wasn't really shocking because they had already done the scene twice. It's just very fake. I don't want to, I don't know. I know reality TV is pretty fake in terms of the producers telling you what to do. It's not organic. You're not, and I wish it would be, because when I watch these reality shows, let me tell you something. The Real Housewives, I really, I don't know if they're doing it more or I just never noticed as much before. They never talk about real life. You know, when you go to lunch with someone, you're like, oh my God, I don't know. Do you know who I ran into in the elevator? Just kind of life stuff. Or did you see that show? I'm like obsessed with the show, or I read this book. They don't talk about anything real in real life and in the real world. They only talk about what they say to each other on the show, which I never really noticed before. It's kind of annoying. They don't talk about anything. Or did you see that guy got shot by this or that? I don't know. I think that would be more interesting if they would just let them be and actually be reality. But they don't let them. And I think it's kind of ruining the viewership has to be down. It just has to be. I'm tuned out for most of these shows. The OC, I'm just tuned out. I mean, it's just not fun to watch anymore. But anyways, Jesse Draper, she deactivated her socials because there's a girl that she knew somehow lightly, and that girl pretended to be working for a place that resells clothing, and she convinced her to give her a huge bag of clothes. So the girl comes to her house, takes all these clothes, probably $1,000, thousands of dollars worth of clothes, and when I guess she followed up and she called the company, and the company said that girl doesn't work for us. And so I guess they brought that she called that girl, and the girl went to meet her or something, and they had the cops involved. And because of that, the girl, then the stalker fan that pretended to work for this company and take her clothes, then plotted revenge and started looking through all her old material and resurfaced a clip of her on some podcast or something, or interview, saying that she got her vagina done, which we all know, and that she looked just like her 2-year-old daughter's vagina or something like that. And now everybody's coming for her for that. It's so stupid. I just, I don't know. I feel like it's just dumb. I just have no interest. It's so dumb. Why doesn't she just turn off her comments? Why delete your Instagram? You know, it's kind of dumb. Oh, I saw the, what is it called? Louder Than Fear documentary. Courtney and Travis, not Courtney and Travis, Travis Barker did this documentary over a few years in the making. Now, I have to say, it's not that it sucked. I learned one thing, and usually it was years in the making. They said that they started this in, I don't remember, but it was what, 8 years or something. It's just, I thought it would be juicier. So I already know all the information. The only thing I didn't know, when he got in the plane crash, I thought the plane actually was in the air, took off midair, and then when it was landing, it maybe crashed or something happened mid travel. The plane never took off. I didn't know that. He got on the plane. The minute it was on the runway trying to take off, something either exploded or something happened. Oil started leaking, and it went over a freeway and then hit a monument. And he jumped out of the plane right on time before it hit the monument and burst into flames. He would have died. But when he jumped out of the plane, he jumped into all this gasoline and caught on fire. So it burned up all his body, which, tell me how his body doesn't look burnt. He doesn't look like a burn victim. Even if he has tattoos, wouldn't the texture of his skin be different? It's kind of interesting. He says he burned 70% of his body, but I don't see it. He wears shorts all the time. I don't see a burnt body. But that's the only thing I didn't know. And then, of course, his ex-wife, Shayna Moakler, she's so thirsty. You know, I kind of get where she's coming from, but I don't. She should be a little more mature for her kids' sake. But ever since he got with Courtney, she's always saying backhanded comments. And she's always trying to be ridiculous, but she's showing just her jealousy, and it's kind of stupid. But at the premiere of this documentary, they had all these paparazzi photos of Travis, his kids, and Courtney. And Shayna Moakler commented on the post saying, where are your kids, Courtney, or something. That's so dumb. I mean, this woman is almost 60 years old. That's so dumb. Why are you posting that? What do you mean, where are your kids? Are you saying she's a bad mom? You think her kids should be, maybe it's like adult content. Maybe they didn't want to go. Maybe they're with their dad. I mean, what, who cares? But she did come out saying, I think in a story, that she was so annoyed because she did agree to be in the documentary, but I think they cut most of her stuff out. And that would annoy me too, because, and I think it's both things, because maybe if you weren't so rude to them and so immature, maybe they would have kept some more in because you can have more of a parenting, co parenting relationship and it wouldn't be so contentious. But you keep bringing all this pettiness to the public, and that's probably why they didn't want to include you, because you're being an asshole and talking shit about Courtney. But she said that, they were ready to like separated and or divorced when this happened, the plane crash happened. Then when the plane crash happened, she was there by his side and they kind of reconciled, but it was very short lived. It didn't work out. So she is a big part of the story, and she was a big part of his life. I mean, they had a reality show, they were married, had 2 kids, and they very briefly touch on that. They didn't really talk about it, and it pisses her off. And that would piss me off too, but I kind of understand, you're kind of a jerk. So the more they mess with that, but it is a documentary. If you're going to do a documentary, you should do the documentary and give the cheese. But they didn't do that. And then Courtney kind of is at the end talking about their life. I will say at the premiere, the kids were there, but then they had a solo moment, Courtney and Travis, and the making out and him having to squeeze her butt, and it lasts so long on camera. This has got to stop. It is so freaking annoying. It is so disgusting and inappropriate. Nobody wants to watch that. You're on camera. Go make out elsewhere. I just, that's the one thing that really pisses me off about them. But then I heard Travis. So I don't really listen to Joe Rogan. I've seen his clips and stuff, but I've never listened to a podcast. First of all, it's way too long. And then his guests always talking about weird shit. And I feel every time I hear Joe Rogan talk, it almost sounds like he's in bed smoking weed, and it's just all the noises. There's so many noise. It's like his mouth is right on the thing, and is he vaping? What is he doing? But Travis was on, and he said he has a rare blood clotting situation. And when that happened, he had so many blood clots, they had to insert a filter, a filter in somewhere in his body against his back. And it filters the blood so the blood gets thinner and doesn't do blood clots or something. But it's an old school method that is really not great because it's kind of stapled or glued to the wall, so they can't remove it. And it's supposed to have only a shelf life of 20 years. And it's been 20 years or more since this happened. And if it breaks or something happens to it, he'll have an immediate blood clot and die. So Joe Rogan's like, are you freaking kidding me? There has to be something they can do because you still have a lot more life to live. And he's like, I just hope for the best. Travis is like, I just hope for the best. I don't think about it. I'm like, oh my God, I would literally think about that shit every single day. Anything that happened to me, if I felt weird, I'd think it was that. That's kind of crazy. And another interesting thing, when that happened and he fell out and he threw himself from the plane, he broke his back in 2 places. And because Joe Rogan was saying that if you have back issues, do not get back surgery. That he's known so many people that got back surgery and A, aren't better, B, are worse, and C, or have so many complications and now other issues, and it's never good. So he said, before getting back surgery, try other things. And he mentioned some other therapy things. But Travis said, well, I think you're right, because when I was in the burn victim unit, I found out later that my back was broken in 2 places and they didn't even address it because they were addressing so many other things. He almost lost his foot and all the things, and his back just healed on its own. He's like, so I think you're right. If you kind of let it heal, it'll heal by itself. I don't know. That's what he said. I'm not sure the details. It was interesting too in the documentary when Travis said, when Landon I don't know who's older, Landon or Alabama, of his two kids. He said when his kid was born that he wanted to be the best father ever, and then he proceeds to say how much he was hooked on drugs and pills and drinking. I'm like, well, okay, how does that make? I love it. It's just weird to me when a parent says that, but then they proceed to do things that are so bad for you and your kid. Um, and I I thought it was interesting that he said his mother passed away. His mother really drilled it in him to do drumming and be really good at it and make something out of himself because he came from nothing. And then his mom passed away from some sort of autoimmune disease, but it has something to do with her lymphatic system. And I mean, obviously, he probably didn't know about this when he was getting all his tattoos. I don't know if he knows about it now, but Travis is supposedly very into the wellness industry now, and he has his tonics and he eats vegan. Wait, I don't think he's vegan. No, he is vegan. He's vegan. He doesn't eat meat. He's very healthy. He runs a lot. Tattoos clog up your lymphatic system. So I thought that was interesting because his mom died of something to do with autoimmune and lymphatic, and all these tattoos he gets. Apparently, tattoos literally stain your insides and block your lymphatic system. So I don't know if he knows that. I'm sure he's heard about it. And yeah, it's so funny how some people don't even know what happened to Travis. I talked about it the other day and someone said he was in a plane crash and he had no idea. But now he's flying again. He used to take cruises to Alaska or to Europe and it would take days because we didn't want to fly. But it's okay. I didn't really I could have, you know, I didn't learn anything from it. Furious on Hulu. There's a new show on Hulu called Furious. It's about sex trafficking. It's good. It does start out slow. It's a little weird, but it's good enough that it keeps my attention, so I'm gonna keep watching. But yeah, it's pretty good, but it's a little diabolical, but it's good. Emmy Rossum or something. She's in it. I think there's a big twist coming. You can tell, but I think there's only one or two episodes left because it comes on weekly. But that's a really good show. I did try to watch Sterling Point, and that's on Prime. I think it's on Prime. The girl that's in the show, everyone's saying she looks like Anne Hathaway. She's to me much prettier than Anne Hathaway, or she just looks a little different. Not prettier, she just has a different look, a little sexier maybe. I think she's sexier than Anne Hathaway. But yeah, she does kind of resemble her. Maybe if they were, cousins or something. But the show, it's a well-made show. It's technically a good show. Will I be watching season 2? No. I think it feels too young. It feels that the storyline is for little kids, even though there's some sex scenes and stuff that's probably not for little kids, but it's probably for someone 18, 20. Not for me. I'm not invested. I don't really care about the story, although I can appreciate it's a good show. It's well made. And I just don't I won't be watching. I don't need to keep watching it. But it's fine. It's fine. The Lindsay Clancy case. What a case. I think they have rested and closing arguments will be the defense has rested and closing arguments will be coming now in the next week. The discourse online is so crazy how people are fighting and all the women. I get both sides, but I don't know why people can't just have opinions and leave it at that. It's just opinions, it's point of views. Nobody was there. You and I were not there. Nobody was there. People talk as if they're 100% certain it's this and 100% certain it's that. What the hell do you know? You do not know these people. You were not there. I'm sorry, someone that had postpartum once in your life and you think you know what I mean? Who the freak knows what happened? We don't know. So stop acting like you know. Just say, in my opinion, it looks like this. Fine. Who cares? Everybody has an opinion. But there's protests in the front, all these women. People are insane. First of all, the people saying she didn't do it, I just can't. I just can't. That to me is absurd. Again, just an opinion on my part, but how can you think she didn't do it? Everybody's saying she did it. Her attorney, everybody's saying she did it. So what is your deal? And there's evidence. She he the Patrick, the husband, called her, or she called him during the time that the kids were being strangled. So she stopped strangling one and answered the phone or called them and then kept going. That's proof, and there's location on the phone. I mean, it's obvious that she did it. Now, all the other conspiracy theories about whether he was cheating, whether he got in her head, all of that it's irrelevant to the fact that she physically did it. She did it. And a nurse in the hospital said that she told the nurse when she was in the hospital after they took her that while she strangled the kids, she said, "Go to God," to the kids. I mean, obviously she did it. Also, it's an interesting thing. Someone said a comparison that it's so true. First of all, anyone that kills anybody is having a psychotic break or they're insane. So this whole insanity thing and people getting off for insanity to me is crazy because it doesn't make sense. Obviously, if you're killing someone, you're insane or you're having an insane moment. Second, okay, if you're suffering deep depression, you're on some medications, it's altering your stuff. Okay, it's a little different, but she's known this for months, if not years, or months, because the baby was 8 months and she said the baby was a nightmare. Apparently, they saw some posts that she made on Facebook and she was saying like the baby was the worst baby she had and she couldn't handle it. Nothing. He made everything difficult. She obviously hated her life for whatever reason. From the time the third baby was born, she switched up and she hated her situation. Let's say that, which a lot of women do, whether they admit it or not. It's a lot of work. Fine, but she knew this for months. She knew what she was thinking. She knew she was on these medications. And if you think these things and you have these things, first of all, hearing a voice, just because you have voices in your head doesn't mean you're going to listen to them. I mean, we don't listen to people talking to us. Why the hell are we going to listen to a voice in our head? People are stubborn. You don't just listen to a voice because you hear it. That's first of all. And second of all, they're talking more like you're possessed, but she's not possessed. And if she knows all this, she should have told her parents. She should have told him, "I need to get out of this house, figure out what's going on with me, and come back. I can't do this and be around the kids." But also, there's women out there. There's millions of women that go through postpartum and they don't do that. Postpartum is essentially depression. Depression doesn't equal murder, and she had all the resources. She had her parents move close. She had nannies. She had the husband. She had doctor. She had all the resources. She checked herself, or they put her into a hospital, and she checked herself out of the hospital. She shouldn't have done that. So I'm just saying, I'm not saying what her state of mind was. I'm just saying she had all the resources that other women don't have, the help that other women don't have, and the whatever. I just think people are responsible. Let's say you have a psychotic break, you're still responsible for your psychotic break, you know? And they made it a comparison, which makes sense. And there's a million of them, but this is just one. Rob Reiner, he killed his parents. Um, he's had a history of drug use. He's had a history of going into hospitals and this and that and mental institutions and talking shit and all this stuff. He went straight to jail. He's going to go on trial for murder. What? He's also crazy in the head. So, okay, you're crazy. You need to figure something out. Fine, but you murdered. You murdered. So you still have to, that still has to be dealt with. And you still have to take some sort of accountability. So that was a good example. And I know there's a million others. You can't just, yell postpartum and do whatever you want. That doesn't give you a free pass. I just saw this story today. This woman in Miami, she filmed herself pouring candle wax on herself and on her daughters, and she was setting her kitchen on fire. I don't know if she was on live. I'm assuming she was on live on somewhere, TikTok, Instagram. I don't know where she was, but they have proof. So now she's facing arson and child abuse charges. Her name is Melissa Campos Sanchez. It's crazy. She's 26 years old. She recorded videos of herself setting her kitchen on fire and pouring drops of hot wax from a lit candle on her 3-year-old and her 6-year-old daughters that were screaming and saying ow or whatever. They didn't want to do it. I'm assuming she's either on drugs or going through a psychotic break or something. Apparently, her and her husband were having issues, and he was staying at his parents' for a week at that point. One of the girls told the detective that she and her sister were present and witnessed her mother burn a shirt. As a result, it started a fire while the victims were inside the residence. I mean, she could have literally killed her kids. And she was in a nightie and showing her ass and dancing sexy. It was so weird. Her husband told deputies that he had been staying with his parents and he took custody of their daughters while his wife, who had threatened self-harm, was at the hospital on Sunday. And she was filming herself at the hospital. So I think this is like a new trend. Social media has really ruined this world. COVID and social media, I think, has really brought us down to the pits of hell. What is this thing of filming yourself doing crazy shit? And it's almost like you have an audience and you feel, I don't know what it is, Perez Hilton, now this. I think people that do shit like that should be banned from social media for the rest of their life. They should somehow find a way to not ever let them be on social media. People like that should not be on social media because it gives them kind of a platform to do crazy stuff, and it brings them, they want that for some reason. They arrested her at 1:40 a.m. on Monday and then booked her at 4:45 a.m. She was born in Cuba, faced 4 charges and 2 pending felony cases, and she had a hold by U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement or whatever. But why was she acting like that? Was she on drugs? They haven't, I guess I don't know yet. But it's really sad. Little kids, 2 and 4 years old, you're with your mom and your mom's acting crazy, flirting and dancing and pouring wax on herself and then trying to pour it on you and then setting out the house on fire. It's just really sad. But see, things like this, she should pay the consequences. Let's say she's suffering but she's postpartum only lasts also. Postpartum is like up to a year or something like that. It doesn't last forever. And another thing they said about Lindsay Clancy is, I think a doctor or something, a psychiatrist said she heard the voices when she killed her kids, but she's never heard her voice again. What happened to the voice? Did she just not become crazy right after that happened? I don't know. I just think I mean, who's to say that she doesn't have a little, whatever you want to call it, crazy enough or depressed enough to kill someone or whatever it is inside of her? We don't know her. We don't know her thoughts. I don't know. But yeah, this other woman in Miami is psychotic. And it's just like, she should never be able to be with her kids alone either. But there's just so many cases of it, and people just have to, I don't know. You have to face consequences, even though they're different consequences, because sure, postpartum mixed with all the meds, okay, she has to face different consequences, but she still should face the consequences. Then Chris Watts, he's a man that killed his pregnant wife and 2 young daughters. We found out he was having an affair. He's serving all these several life sentences. This man has found a woman to marry him secretly in jail. And it'll never stop amazing me how people in jail find partners. Her name is Lizzie Henderson. Can you imagine saying to your family or your kid or whoever, your friends, yeah, I'm so in love, I met this guy, and then she tells you who he is, and you're just like, could you be friends with someone? I would stop being friends with you immediately. You need to get your head checked. What kind of a woman wants to marry, date, talk, flirt with a man that killed his pregnant wife and 2 young daughters? What kind of a woman? are you? You must be batshit, and I can't deal with batshit. I would not be friends with you. If you were my family member, I would have you committed. What is happening? It's just insane. Why would you want to? Do you think he's innocent? You think he didn't do it? That's the only logical explanation. But he obviously did do it. So it's not logical, but she must think that or want to think that. Um, he married in 2025. A woman named Lizzie applied for a legal name change that was listed as confidential. So they got secretly married. There you go. Congrats on the new stupid ass couple. I mean, it's shocking. It's shocking. The Menendez brothers also, all these women coming after them, they're cheating from jail. It's just insane. These women are nuts and they need to stop. And the Texas surrogate, I don't know all the details of this case, but now she's trying to fight for the kid because she's like, that's my kid. What a nightmare that is. But I mean, I guess she didn't think that would happen, that she would have to be asked to. She's a woman that was a surrogate to this family, and they did all these tests, and they found out the kid was going to have some sort of heart condition, but it is a treatable heart condition. But the parents that ordered the surrogate didn't want to deal with it, and they thought it would be a terrible life for the kid, so they wanted her to abort the baby. She refused. It's against the law. Now she's being sued, and the baby's is born and is gonna have the surgery it needs. But it is a wild story. And I can imagine you wouldn't think that would happen. And then it happens and you're like, wait, I'm carrying this baby. I can't abort it. Oh my God. And however far along she was. That's another interesting case, but it's a sticky situation. I don't know what to say. And everyone's like, well, she should have to pay for the stuff because then the parents didn't want to deal with it. And I don't know. But that's an interesting story. I'd be curious to see what happens with that. So I think that's all I have. And we're going to do reality recap this week. So stay tuned for that. And I'll see you next time. Be your best selves. You can follow me on all social medias, Salty Sunshine Podcast. Bye.